ExtraTugg.com. It's $4 a month. That's cheaper than a Big Mac. That's cheaper than a train ride. That's cheaper than Hulu and Netflix and all that other stuff. ExtraTugg.com for exclusive comedy content. Come on, what are you doing? Original thoughts are complicated and overrated. You heard it here first. When I'm not talking real smart for these videos, I'm usually talking real dumb and lazy-like. I use colloquialisms like they're going out of style, which itself is a colloquialism. I can't say that word. Colloquialism is a big fancy word that means phrases that are commonly used, like beat a dead horse or help me, I'm scared, please help me. They're also called idioms, which is much easier to say, so I will just say that. But in order for a phrase to be common, they have to start somewhere. Someone has to say the phrase first. And like I said, I'm lazy, so I've never really rubbed two brain cells together to figure out where all the weird things I say come from. And a lot of these phrases, turns out, are horrific. The origins are horrific. But keep your chin up and your eye on the ball while I spill the beans about the phrase history. That was 3 of them, so well-written script. So I ordered all of these phrases from mild to extra spicy to keep things tolerable, because if I started the video with some of these, no one would watch it, because it's disgusting and weird. And before things get too far, I want to get out front with this. I want to say something up the top. Most of these things have a ton of rumors of their actual beginnings. Sadly, words and phrases aren't really something that people keep good historic record of. So either I'm going to be giving you the most commonly agreed upon origins, or the one that fits the video the most and is the most entertaining. Because I'm not a doctor. I'm not Hank Green. Okay, I'm not going to give you the real information. You can do research if you want to, but you don't. That's why you're watching this. Sick of you people. Let's do this. Let's jump right in. Up first, we have a little known notion called paint the town red. This is what you say when you're about to go out on a night with your drinking buddies and just have a good old time of heathenry and debauchery. You're getting out there and you're painting the town red. But what the f does that mean? I saw, who's that dude? Dirty Harry? Chris, put up a picture of that guy. I'm doing an impression of him right now. Punk. There's a movie he did a while ago where the movie was called Town Painted Red or something like that, and they painted the town red. Is that where this comes from? Let's find out. Well, it's not probably how the phrase started. It's commonly connected to Henry Beserford, the Mad Marquis of Waterford. This guy was a known troublemaker in the 1800s. And do you know how bad of a troublemaker you have to be to have a nickname that long and also be remembered at all? According to legend, in the early 1800s in the town of Melton Mowbray, the Mad Marquis and his friends went out drinking. After going to the races, they got stopped by the toll taker. And they weren't too happy about this, so they went to his house and barricaded all the doors and then painted the house red. So I guess an old-timey prank. Then they went around the town, throwing the paint on every door, window, and wall they could find. They literally painted the town red. What a legend, what a guy. So that's kind of where people think this term came from. I don't know what that has to do about getting f***ed up. I guess the homies were drunk when they did that, but that's more of like a you're being a d phrase than an actual like you had fun phase. Although it probably was fun to throw buckets of paint on shit. I was wrong immediately. Moving on. Up next, we have pulling my leg. Not a thing. This is a phrase that boomers use when someone's messing with them. Oh, stop pulling my leg. I have a house worth $800,000. So this one has 2 possible origins, both weird and dark. The first one is that it refers to an old thieves' practice where they'd pull you down by your leg to daze and distract you while they robbed you blind. And the second one is that it would make a hanging go faster by pulling down one of the legs of the victim, which is up, but it makes a lot of sense. I don't know why when you get hung, you only do it by the neck. Like, yank that motherfucker, you know what I'm saying? And despite everything I just said, neither one of those are anything close to the use of the phrase pulling your leg that we use today. It just means joshing around, not getting hung or robbed mercilessly in the street. So I don't know how it's weird. Boomers are weird. Up next, we got Mad as a Hatter. Mad Hatter, Alice in Wonderland. Read a fucking book. I'm not British. British people say Mad as a Hatter. I suppose to this day, maybe old British people. I have British people in my circle. I will ask them. But obviously, it means crazy. Crazy? I was crazy once. They locked me in a room with rats. I hate rats. Rats make me crazy. But when people used to make top hats by hand regularly, there were 2 very important parts of the process. Mercury and licking stuff. Those 2 things don't go. That's like PB&J for making your brain rot. I'm no scientist. I do know that mercury is a big deal. If you broke a thermometer when you were a child, you'd run away from that cool looking liquid. And I know that licking that would probably be terrible for you. But yeah, hat makers were going crazy because they were all doing all the mercury poisoning shit. And people thought the best way to handle one of their most important people in the town going crazy was to point, laugh, ridicule, and make a fun little statement about it for the rest of history. We're a benevolent species. God is real and heaven is waiting for us. Moving on. Pleased as punch is one that pisses me the f off. People throw this one around when they're really happy about something, but usually I hear it in a sense of sarcasm, like, oh yeah, I'm f***ing pleased as punch, dude. It's usually being shitty. but regardless, but I'll give it to him. You know, it's hard to be sad when you got a big old cup of Hawaiian punch. Did you know that's a hat, not his hair? I didn't know that. This one doesn't come from fruit punch. It's actually a reference to the Punch and Judy puppet show. Another weird British thing. If it's puppets, probably British, if you have to guess. If you've never seen a Punch and Judy puppet show, they're a husband and wife, and the entire bit is that Punch beats the shit out of Judy, and he's really ridiculously happy about it. You know the old stand-up routine, like, boy, I hate my wife? That is every British man. Every British man hates his wife. It's just science. And we have our own version of this as Americans. I would say that the Kermit Miss Piggy combo is probably our version of this, but that's where it comes from. Pleases Punch, because Punch was literally beating the shit out of his wife, and he was really happy about that. So the next time you say that, you're not thinking of like a 1950s sock hop with a big bowl of punch. You're thinking about spousal abuse. So maybe let's take that out of the Rolodex. All right, now that we've already like gone over the precipice of, I don't know if that's the right word, of being a little naughty, now we're gonna go to the slightly spicier ones. These are the ones that are just dark enough to make you think twice, but probably not enough to make you remove them from your vocabulary, you know? It's not gonna be like a cancelable offense. So up first in a little f***ed up category is kick the bucket. This is a euphemism for dying, although it always seemed worse than dying to me for some reason. Kick the bucket. Like, I feel like you did it, you died violently. Like, you accidentally slipped down a flight of stairs, knocking over a bucket, and then you're at the bottom covered in like some fucking dirty water. I don't know. That's a me thing. There's a lot of different theories about where this particular phrase came from, but the most common one is that it refers to soup. Now, I can't say that word, I think, so I'm gonna have to say unalive like a fucking preteen TikToker. I've been getting striked a lot on this channel. I've been losing a lot of money, so we gotta be safe, guys. The reason it's kick the bucket is because if you were to put a scarf around your neck that has different motives, and then if you put that scarf in a banister, I'm trying to find a way to say hang yourself without it being an issue, but you'd have to stand on top of a bucket, and then you kick the bucket, so you do one of these. You know what I'm saying? That's definitely gonna get me demonetized. That was great mimery, though. But yeah, just a light and breezy little phrase, you know? Just f***ing yourself. Makes the movie The Bucket List way sadder. All right, up next, bite the bullet. You know? You know what that means? Bite the bullet, like f***ing grin and bear it, dog. If you say you're gonna bite the bullet, it means that something sucks and you're gonna have to do it anyway. Just get it over with, clean your room, bite the bullet, stop bitching. And I'll be real, this phrase has always sounded pretty charged. I figured it was a suicide thing because that seems to be a very common etymological through line at this point. But it's actually a war thing, which is pretty close to suicide. Chris, bleep when I say that. Did you not bleep that last one? What are you doing? You're slipping, dog. What are you doing? But before we had anesthesia and numbing stuff, if you were a soldier with a big nasty injury and you didn't want to cry out in pain while a 16-year-old medic stuck his fingers in your wound, you would literally bite down on whatever was at your disposal, which in war was often a big old bullet. So you'd put that between your teeth, crack it while you're screaming in pain, and they're sawing off a leg because you don't want to get gangrene or whatever the f. So that's where the term comes from. Way more f***ed up. Puts it in perspective that you should probably just clean your room. Shit's a lot worse out there. Up next, we have deadline. And this one isn't really a phrase at all. It's a straight up word, but it has a pretty interesting origin. And you can tell it has an evil origin because it comes from the Civil War. It was one man that started this whole thing, a Confederate leader named Henry Wirz. In 1864, they put this guy in charge of Camp Sumter, which was an interesting camp for Union soldiers. As many as 45,000 people were imprisoned there at some point or another, and because conditions were deplorable, like a third of them died there. And Wirz was so evil that he had what he called a deadline drawn in the ground about 20 feet from the inner wall of the prison enclosure. So if you were a prisoner and you passed that line, they'd just f***ing shoot you immediately. You'd be dead immediately. So that's where the deadline comes from. So if deadlines for work didn't make you feel completely terrible, you might wish it was an actual deadline, because if you crossed it, you would just f***ing die. Now that we've talked about Civil War prison camps, let's move on to the extra super duper spicy ones. These are 5 fire alarm Carolina Reaper level spice, so buckle the f*** up. These are the ones that you might accidentally still be saying, and you need to take that out of your tongue fast. You need to scrape that shit. All right, up first, drink the Kool-Aid. I know where this one's from, and I still say it though, so I'll give you a pass. It's kind of morbid. I would assume everyone actually knows where this comes from. Jonestown, have you heard of it? We say it now to refer to someone falling completely for a belief in or idea, like how members of a cult might. Like enough to commit mass suicide, perhaps. That's what happened at Jonestown. The most famous murder-suicide cult case of all time, the Jonestown Massacre, happened in November of 1978. And was about to hit the fan for cult leader Jim Jones, because the FBI, CIA, everyone was arriving to his island, and he was like, Everybody kill yourselves. We gotta get this done real quick. Instead of just accepting the consequences of his actions, he made everyone drink Flavor Aid mixed with cyanide. And it's crazy because it wasn't name brand Kool-Aid, it was a thing called Flavor Aid. And they somehow missed the biggest PR disaster of their lives. Kool-Aid must be like, I guess you can't make a press conference being like, hey, just want to remind everyone that that's not our fucking drink, that was the other guy's, because then you look like a real piece of shit. So Kool-Aid just like fucking had to deal with that. They had to bite the bullet, if you will. But yeah, f***ed up that we still use that one. Next up, we have rule of thumb. Seems innocuous enough. I think my teachers used to say this. This one makes the extra spicy list just because how innocently and commonly it's used. It's a term for a generally accepted rule. Like rule of thumb, don't move under braking. Anyone else a sim racer? I need friends. And the internet says that the rumored origins aren't actually true. But I can't get it out of my head, so I'm gonna tell you about the rumored origins, and then you can just go and spread misinformation, because it's super fun. Allegedly, this came to be from some legal doctrine that told you how big of a stick you were legally allowed to beat your wife with. It couldn't be any wider than the width of your thumb, and that is fine by me because I got little baby hands, but like Andre the Giant was beating the shit out of people with tree limbs. And again, the internet says that's not true, but whatever. It's probably just something in the early days, like the textile industry, like measuring shit with your thumb, but that's boring. I want to talk about wife beating. I mean, Jesus Christ, beating your wife, it's not the first time this has shown up, so phraseology is a disgusting world and we have to live in it, all right? Make the bed. Up next, we have sold down the river. Think about it for a second. Think about how racist this is about to get. Being sold down the river means being betrayed or doing something bad for someone by doing something good for you. And everyone take a big fat guess where this one comes from. Slavery. That's correct. Slavery, everybody. If you were a slave and you got sold in Louisville, Kentucky, you'd be transported down the Mississippi River to work plantations in the South. Literally, sold down the river. Maybe we should stop using this one. I shouldn't have to tell you that slavery is bad and, you know, an overall regrettable part of our history that we still haven't completely made up for, but I think we could have a good jump start if we stopped using fun little stories in our sentences that relate back to the sadness of slavery. If you're black, you can use it. I don't give a f***. I'm just saying, like, white people, be more aware. Up next, we have blue blood. Hopefully this moves away from the slavery thing. You don't hear this one that often, but I've heard people referred to as blue-blooded Americans like that's something to be proud of. Officially, it means like aristocratic or wealthy lineage. Stuff that only wealthy aristocrats talk about, and they say things like, I summered in Prague. I had a teacher in college who would say she summered, like, in Vermont. I'm like, you are a f***ing college professor. Shut the f*** up. Oh my God. And she wouldn't let me say girls. She was like an old school feminist. So I'd be like, yeah, I have some friends that are girls. She's like, women. They are women. I'm like, we are 19. I'm a boy. That is a girl. What are you talking about? But anyway, blue-blooded started in medieval Spain as a way for Spanish aristocrats to differentiate themselves from their Moorish counterparts. They claimed that their blue blood meant that they hadn't done any kind of racial intermixing. So their blood was completely free from Moorish taint. This was racist, not slavery, but pretty close. If you don't know what Moorish is, it's the group of people from of Muslim descent. And also somehow, Moorish means now uncultured. So a lot of bad things going on in this explanation. So if I hear another idiot in a red hat talking about being a blue-blooded American, I'm gonna go postal. Speaking of which, let's go ahead. Going postal is a phrase we use when someone's going absolute Karen mode, just going crazy, usually at people who don't deserve it. Usually someone getting out some unreleased aggression. But do you know where it comes from? That's right, Postman Pat used to bring a gun to work. The term going postal refers to a series of workplace shootings between 1986 and 2011. Oh boy, does it really suck to work for the USPS. Enough for exactly 40 people to get shot about it, apparently. In that period of time, there were at least 20 shootings at USPS locations by current or former employees. While the USPS takes up less than 1% of the civilian workforce, 13% of workplace homicides were postal workers. So something, I don't know what the f was going on in this time frame, but like postal workers was just showing up and killing a bunch of people. And that going postal is a fun little phrase, but it is a f***ed up history. What is going on in post office that makes people want to f***ing blow their brains out? I actually do know what it is, and it's people suck. People are so f***ing stupid. Every time I go into a post office, the lady behind the counter is really mean to me, but I understand, because so many people go in there and they're like, hey, I have a Pokemon card, I've got a box or a stamp, what do I do? Like, holy shit, dude, go on the internet before you get here. Well, yeah, I'm in a good mood now. Such a lighthearted video. That's where phrases come from, at least the f***ed up ones. If you have any other ones in the comments, let me know. And don't tell me about anything that was in the Salmonella video, because I tried to avoid everything he talked about in this one, and I did a pretty good job. So if you repeat his talking points down below, I'm gonna tell you to go f*** yourself. New videos every Saturday and every other Wednesday. Like, comment, and subscribe. Actually do those things. And new videos every week on Extra Tugg for just $4. You get an extra little video, and it's a little bit raunchier. Actually, a lot of it raunchier. I'm about to talk about some f***ed up shit in a couple videos coming up that, like, it was hard for me to even read that script about. But you also get your name in a video at the end of it. You see all these names? They're pretty cool. They're called Tugglets. I didn't pick that name. You guys picked that name for yourself, but it's also spelled Tuggle. T or TS? I don't know if there should be two T's. Let me know in the comments down below if there should be two T's at the end of Tugglets. I think there should be. I think it's very, whatever. I'm pretty sure I'm out of time. All right, I'll see you guys later.